and useless. He calls out to his pale white lizardman companion and orders him to fetch a bow and arrows, a type of weapon Rakrak has never even heard of before. A while later, the pale white lizardman brings the weapon Shunin requested. Next, he's tasked with setting up a wooden plank against a tree as a target. Once that's done, Shunin releases his first arrow, and it lands perfectly on the mark. Rakrak praises both the weapon and its user for such impressive accuracy. Shunin claims he doesn't want to brag, but he claims to be one of the best archers in his tribe. They've been learning to wield this weapon since childhood. Damn, this green guy is literally starving for validation. He gets flattered every time Rakrak praises him. Up next, when our chief expresses his desire to try the weapon, the frogmen hand it over happily. Rakrak fiddles around with it for a while, trying to figure out the proper way to hold and use it. While doing so, he can clearly tell this weapon is far superior compared to javelins. It's easy to carry a lot of arrows, and both its speed and accuracy are insane. Rakrak attempts several shots, but none of them manage to reach the target. Shunin then orders his lizardman companion, whose name is Owen by the way, to fetch the arrows. As Owen dashes forward to collect them, Rakrak insists on picking them up himself, since he was the one who fired them. Of course, that's just a pretense to get closer to Owen, away from earshot. As Rakrak crouches down near Owen, the first thing he notices is how shaken this guy looks. When the chieftain questions this young lizardman on why he's hanging around with frogmen, Owen responds hesitantly. He claims that both the Lizardmen and Frogmen tribes actually live together. And why they're together? Well, according to him, both tribes benefit from the arrangement. Of course, that sounds completely unbelievable to Rakrak, but Owen doubles down, happily insisting that both tribes live in harmony. Naturally, Rakrak is curious how this symbiotic relationship even works. According to Owen, the Frogmen provide protection, while the Lizardmen take care of menial tasks. Furthermore, Frogmen can dive deep and explore underwater areas, while Lizardmen are better at picking fruits and climbing trees. They basically exchange resources that the other tribe can't obtain themselves, making life easier for both groups. However, Rakrak believes Lizardmen don't need anyone's protection since they're fully capable of defending themselves. But Owen reminds the chieftain about how dangerous this forest truly is. Only Aloy's tribe, supposedly the largest tribe in the forest, can handle it. The situation for the Lizardmen was so miserable that even basic survival wasn't guaranteed without the Frogmen's help. For now, Rakrak decides to stop questioning him since he has already obtained the answers he wanted. He sternly orders Owen to act as if this conversation never happened. A while later, the Lizardmen prepare some steamed deer ribs for their esteemed guest, Shunin. The moment he takes the first bite, his face lights up like a kid in a candy store. He's had deer before, but never one seasoned with herbs. The guy is completely sold, and to hammer the nail deeper, Rakrak further tempts him with the mention of buffalo meat. Naturally, Shunin perks up again. After all, it's not every day they get to eat buffalo. It's been ages since he last had it, and even then, it was a stale piece he had. But now he can have tender, fresh buffalo meat if he joins Rakrak in the camp, since they have one there. But then his big muscular buddy starts throwing deadly glares, leaving poor Shunin no choice but to decline under that harsh pressure. Rakrak, being just as sassy, tries to rub Shunin's FOMO even harder. Shunin insists he will visit the camp, but only after they've built more trust in their relationship. Luckily, Aloy's tribe members aren't hostile toward Lizardmen, and Owen, and the other Lizardmen living with Frogmen, are living proof of that. Shunin calls Owen over and asks him to explain to Rakrak how their tribes have been helping each other ever since they started living together. Of course, Owen begins narrating the script he's clearly been taught by his masters, and Rakrak sees through all of it. He can tell every word coming out of Owen's mouth is rehearsed, prepared for this exact moment. With dusk starting to cast its yellow hue, Shunin decides to be on his way. He definitely enjoyed the company and is genuinely grateful. When Rakrak insists he visit their village next time, Shunin politely declines as expected. The representatives of both tribes wave at each other before parting ways. It's then we notice Shunin getting extremely harsh with Owen, a detail Rakrak's eyes don't miss. He can tell these Lizardmen aren't on good terms with the Frogmen at all. Once Shunin gets back to his village, he and his men start beating the shit out of Owen. Turns out, Shunin realized Owen had spoken to the Lizardman chief earlier, and demands he spill everything he talked about. The poor Lizardman fumbles over his words as he tries to lie, claiming he only guided the chieftain on how to become a better bowman. Well, that pathetic excuse just earns him more beating, because he can't even shoot an arrow himself, so how the hell was he tutoring that chieftain? But Owen doubles down, insisting that if he had told the truth to the chieftain, that guy would have become suspicious. That's why Owen demanded some sort of payment if the chief wanted shooting lessons. In response, the chieftain said he didn't possess anything valuable to pay with. Eventually, Shunin buys the story, and even starts holding Owen in high regard for such impressive bargaining skills. Since Owen did such an excellent job, Shunin promises to spare his offspring, who was scheduled for sacrifice today. You see, these bastards have a bunch of Lizardmen captive, all intended to be sacrificed. That's exactly why Owen is willing to obey every command Shunin gives. He's prepared to fool Rakrak and his tribe with everything he's got. Later that night, Owen sits at the edge of the pond, reflecting on the terrible decisions that led him here. He regrets not seeing the true colors of these frogmen earlier. They lured them in while pretending to be benevolent. By now, the major chunk of lizardmen who lived here have already been sacrificed. The remaining 200 or so don't dare revolt against 1,500 frogmen. Not only do the frogmen have superior numbers, they also have a supposedly divine creature they call a god, a terrifying two-headed fiend that can devour anything with a single swipe. That being is the only thing ruling over the frogmen, and by extension, it's ruling over the lizardmen. Owen is certain that the black-scaled lizardman chieftain he met is indeed a powerful individual. But even then, his tribe has only about 600 members and can't wield any weapons. So Owen plans to lure them here and have them sacrificed first. That way, his own people get a little more time to live. He'll do anything to prolong his son's life, even if it means luring the other tribe into this trap. The next day arrives, and Yuri is out here flexing this water buffalo, making Shunin go absolutely bananas. Rakrak doesn't waste the moment to brag about it either. Now that Shunin has seen the buffalo with his own eyes, Rakrak wants to trade it for the weapon called a bow. That's when Owen steps in, insisting they should visit each other's villages before any major trade happens. It's only fair they get acquainted first. In fact, Owen promises to gift the bow afterward as a gesture of goodwill. Many days pass like this. Rakrak and Zale are testing the bow they replicated themselves. But for some reason, their prototype isn't able to fire the arrow far. Rakrak is convinced it's the bowstring, but they still haven't figured out which creature's tendons should be used for it. We then learn that the next meeting with the frogmen will be the 5th one, and it's right around the corner. Those guys are extremely eager to learn more about their tribe. Although their curiosity feels suspicious to Rakrak, he's certain they're hiding something vicious under the pretext of friendship. The problem is, he can't quite put his finger on what they're plotting. I guess it's finally time to put Owen to use. This will also help Owen prove his worth and loyalty. We cut back to the frogmen. They're busy choking that poor guy again. They're frustrated that they've made no progress getting closer to the tribe, even though they followed Owen's guidance. Owen admits the black-scaled chieftain is far more cunning and cautious than he expected. But whatever the case, Shunin wants Owen to speed things up. Chief Aoloy has given them a deadline to bring the sacrifices, and they can't afford to miss it. Owen insists on knowing why the deadline is so strict. In his mind, he's certain these guys are hiding something crucial, something he needs to know. So he questions Shunin about it. Shunin explains that his father and the elders are getting sicker, so delaying the sacrificial ritual isn't an option. A disease is spreading that causes extreme itchiness, and the symptoms only get worse. While Shunin admits no lizardman should know about this, he considers Owen an exception. He stresses how dangerous the disease is. If any frogman is afflicted, their skin not only itches but becomes coated with a sticky white layer of mucus. This layer is impossible to rub off, and it constantly expands. At a certain point, the mucus makes it impossible to breathe properly, eventually suffocating the victim. As of now, a priest has already died from it. Owen is utterly surprised that Shunin bothered to spill such classified details to a lizard man. The only explanation he can think of is that Shunin is putting him through some sort of test. So, he masks his emotions and promises never to spread this information among the lizardmen. After all, if they learn something this crucial, they'll realize the frogmen are actually quite weak, and that would spark a revolt. Still, it's not like they can keep this secret hidden forever. So as a precautionary measure, Owen suggests spreading rumors that the illness is also contagious to lizardmen. To make the story believable, he adds that grasses and other plants exist that produce a white foam when crushed, something they can use to imitate the mucus. Owen volunteers to act as the first infected patient. With that settled, Shunin is once again proud of the impressive strategic plans Owen always comes up with. Though he also wants him to use that same cleverness to lure all those black-scaled lizardmen here, only then will he exclude Owen's son from the sacrifice. Of course, the cornered lizardman is more than grateful for such benevolence. As Shunin starts leaving after laying down all the details, Owen stops him and requests a batch of bows to use against the black-scaled lizardmen. But it's clear Shunin isn't willing to hand over his precious weapons so easily. The next day arrives, and the frogmen have brought quite a lot of stuff for the lizardmen as gifts. It looks like Rakrak has brought a massive stack of herbs that help with itching. He's hoping this huge stockpile will be enough to exchange for at least one bow. As expected, Shunin declines the offer. To him, more than anything, trust is what matters when it comes to trading weapons. For obvious reasons, Rakrak has grown tired of hearing this broken tape loop the same excuse over and over. Finally, he agrees to improve the mutual trust between both tribes, just like the great son of Aoloy desires. But first, he intends to have a private chat with Owen. Eventually, Owen and the chieftain walk out of everyone's earshot. Owen begins narrating the same old scripted bullshit. He recalls how the other gray and brown-scaled lizardmen had a brotherly ritual with the frogmen tribe before their tribes merged. The ritual basically requires spending time rigorously studying each other. That's why it's imperative for Rakrak to tell everything about his tribe, Only then will Owen share all the information about the frogmen. It's about time they stop being so wary and actually make an effort to get closer. Right then, the familiar blue butterflies join the scene, one even landing on Owen. Rakrak immediately picks up on what his god is trying to tell him. He wholeheartedly agrees with Owen. It is indeed time to stop being so wary of each other. Rakrak is willing to tell Owen everything he wants to know. A while later, Shunin and his crew return to their village. This time, Shunin is absolutely ecstatic to realize they've managed to gather a ton of information about those black-scaled lizardmen. What excites him most is that they've finally convinced those fools to visit their village. Even better, those supposed fools voluntarily showed Shunin around their own village. Now the frogmen know exactly where the Lizardman village is located, and how many numbers they possess. Shunin doesn't hesitate before giving all the credit to Owen, who helped them gain the upper hand over the tribe. Owen is flattered to hear it, though he hesitantly reminds Shunin of the promise he made. Of course, that cunning toad remembers the promise all too well, though I highly doubt he plans on honoring it. Dusk creeps in, and as usual, Owen sits near the pond, excited at the thought of living with his child again like they used to. As for Rakrak and his village, Owen believes the chieftain's own ignorance is what will eventually lead to his downfall. To learn exactly what conversation they had, we cut a little back in time. Rakrak is trying to familiarize Owen with the concept of characters and symbols. He draws certain symbols with a twig and explains their meanings. The cross means decline, and the other character represents lie. Owen, being sharp-minded, quickly picks up on it. Not only that, he also puts both characters together, forming an entirely new sentence. For example, putting the character for lie next to the cross forms the phrase no lie, which represents truth. Rakrak is thoroughly impressed by how quickly he learned it. Even he never thought of using these characters this way. All these flattering words remind Owen of Shunin, who also praises him for his sharp mind. Still, Owen is curious why Rakrak is specifically teaching him symbols when they never mentioned such things in the meetings with the frogmen. It's as if Rakrak is reading his mind. He explains that the only reason he's teaching this is because he wants to build trust. He doesn't want to build trust with the frogmen, but with Owen himself. Rakrak already knows the things he's been told about the frogmen aren't true, and there are many stories Owen simply isn't allowed to share. Rakrak and his people have seen pain. That's exactly why they've learned to recognize it in others. He can easily differentiate predator from prey, and he's already recognized that Owen and his people are the prey. Rakrak can see and smell the pain carved across Owen's face. Despite that, the young lizardman keeps denying everything, but the chieftain knows all too well. Returning from the flashback, Owen reflects on his situation. He knows the chieftain of the black-scaled tribe is confident and strong, but he doesn't stand a chance against frogmen weapons. Rakrak's claim about taking down an abominable creature sounds ridiculous to Owen, especially when they don't even have special weapons. Furthermore, Chief Rakrak must be incredibly foolish to give him knowledge of their symbols. Owen feels he isn't worthy of the chieftain's trust. He considers himself nothing more than a bargainer, someone only concerned about his own gains. The next day arrives, and Rakrak finally pays a visit to the frogmen's village. Seeing them, Shunin welcomes his new friends with open arms. Once the pleasantries are done, Rakrak apologizes for arriving fully equipped. He feared they might encounter a cockatrice along the way, and didn't want to risk it. Of course, Shunin has no objections. In his mind, he thinks these lizardmen are stupid for believing their primitive spears could ever stand a chance against a cockatrice. Besides, Shunin doesn't intend to fight the lizardmen at all. He plans to poison the food during their feast. Rakrak then starts glancing around, looking for Owen. Shunin explains he's busy preparing for the banquet. They eventually spot him arranging seats for their guests. Shunin notices him scribbling something on the ground with a twig. He doesn't suspect a thing, and thinks Owen is probably marking where each guest is supposed to sit. He gestures for Rakrak to go greet Owen himself. As for Shunin, he's going to check on the food preparations. Once Rakrak approaches, Owen points to the markings he's been carving, pretending they indicate where the lizardmen are supposed to sit. But the symbol he's drawn is the one that means lie. Rakrak immediately understands what they are supposed to do. He signals to Yuri to get things started. And just like that, the real banquet begins. Yuri plants his feet, takes his stance, and chucks the spear with all his strength, killing one armed frogman instantly. Rakrak then orders his warriors to obliterate the frogmen, initiating this one-sided massacre. A while passes, and Rakrak's crew clears the whole area without sustaining a single casualty. Most frogmen have already fled, including Shunin. Next, they must prepare to fight the bowmen. For that, Rakrak can only hope their backup plan works. He quickly turns to Owen and gives him a crucial task, one he cannot fail. Cutting to the frogmen, Shunin is grinding his teeth in fury, if he has any. He's certain this is all Owen's doing. He orders his henchmen to gather every warrior in the village. They must attack the lizardmen immediately. As for the gray captive lizardmen, their job is to hold off Rakrak's group until the frogmen warriors are ready. Soon the frogmen unleash a barrage of arrows aimed directly at the lizardmen, but Rakrak had already planned for this. Their backup plan was shields. All the lizardmen raise their shields, blocking the incoming arrows. Those weak sticks bounce right off as soon as they hit. Yuri is ecstatic seeing these things actually work against arrows. Meanwhile, Shunin quickly adjusts the strategy. He orders the frogmen to fire only when the lizardmen advance. But that plan also collapses as a thick blanket of smoke begins swallowing the entire area, ruining everyone's visibility. No one can aim properly anymore. And the one spreading the smoke? Well, it's Owen, who has set the frogmen's abodes on fire. His fellow lizardmen stare in disbelief, watching him commit such a bold act. For a moment, they think it must be on Shunin's orders. But Owen reveals the truth. He's acting under orders from the black-scaled chieftain. He begs his friends to trust him, just this once, assuring them that Rakrak will crush the frogmen. Eventually, his comrades pick up their own torches and start burning everything around them. By the time Shunin realizes the settlement is on fire, it's already too late. For now, he decides they must retreat, especially since the lizardmen under their command have already betrayed them. They plan to rejoin the battle later when their trump card, Warrior Oboy, arrives. But Shunin still doubts whether they can turn the tide. He doesn't doubt Oboy's strength. He's worried they might need more than just a strong warrior. He then considers taking aid from the fiend living in the waters. Meanwhile, Warrior Oboy receives word that Shunin is retreating to the lower village. The 10 warriors stationed at the banquet hall, and the 5 warriors sent to investigate, have all been massacred. Oboy counts the 5 warriors on the island, and the 10 beside him. Counting everyone, they have 45 warriors in total. That number gives him confidence. They still have the advantage. One frogman takes out a spear, laces it in poisonous frog mucus, and prepares to shoot. But suddenly the ground trembles. A cold tension grips Warrior Oboy. The feeling in his chest is the same one he had the day he faced the cockatrice. He can tell something catastrophic is coming. Eventually they unleash their barrage of arrows, but their attack is rendered useless against Drake Manon. His massive presence alone makes the frogmen shudder in fear. The one riding the beast is Zael. She notices how big Manun has grown since the last time she rode him. What's even more comical is the fact that the arrows, supposedly the enemy's ultimate weapons, are literally serving as side snacks for Manun. You see, Manun eats anything that comes close to his mouth. He roars viciously, ready to devour even more food, and these frogmen are about to become his buffet. Oboy finds himself in a serious pickle since their ultimate weapon has completely failed them. Even if he tries shooting at Manun's vulnerable parts, the creature is simply too fast for him to take proper aim. Eventually, Manun lunges forward and crushes one of the frogmen with the sheer strength of his jaws. At this point, Oboy is certain this monster isn't something they can mess with. Since nothing is going to work against this all-round predator, Oboy decides to use the creature's own strength against it. He tosses the poisonous toad right at Manun, and just as expected, Manun devours it instantly. The other frogmen also begin throwing their poisonous toads toward him, and Manun is literally catching every single one with his mouth left and right, making sure no delightful dessert goes to waste. Meanwhile, Zael finds it strange that the enemy is throwing literal snacks at Manun. Under Nebula's blessings, specifically one of the 3 blessings, they have resistance against toxins. Once again, Oboy realizes far too late that they've royally screwed up. Manun pleasantly smiles at his next snack before yanking Oboy's head off his body. We then cut back to the place that had been set ablaze. One of the frogmen tries to snipe Rakrak with a poisonous arrow, but the Chad lizard simply tears through the incoming arrow with a strike of his tail. Yuri then smashes the sniper's head, causing the brain bits to splatter. With the last warrior taken care of, no enemies remain. Shunin has already abandoned the village and has gone to the inner village located in the island in the middle of the river. Since the frogmen has been crushed mercilessly, the grayish-brown lizardmen have also begun attacking the frogmen. Seeing all the destruction and the overwhelming damage the frogmen have taken, Rakrak starts wondering why their leader, Owloy, hasn't shown up yet. Well, turns out Nebula has already taken care of Owloy off-screen. There's a virus with a ridiculously long name that I can't even pronounce. The only thing that matters is that the illness caused by this virus is extremely fatal. By the time Rakrak decided to leave the Holy Land, Nebula had located a disease hundreds of kilometers away. Using insects, he transported that disease all the way here. Once the great frogman leader Owloy became infected, he was no longer the powerful figure he was revered to be. The idiot, on the brink of death, held countless ceremonies where he sacrificed poor lizardmen children, offering them to that 2-headed fiend. He believed this was the only way his illness could be cured. Cutting back to Rakrak and his crew, they've successfully wiped out the frogmen in the area. That's when Owen comes running to him. He desperately begs Rakrak to cross the lake immediately and reach the island in the middle. There are young lizardmen about to be sacrificed to that 2-headed fiend. But as grim as this sounds, Rakrak points out that Owen is telling him all this way too late. They can't cross the lake now because the frogmen have already sailed off toward the island with their boats. Trying to reach it by swimming would be pure suicide. In the water, they'd be nothing but practice dummies for frogmen archers. Owen sinks into utter despair. With clasped hands and eyes full of sorrow and desperation, he begs Rakrak to do something. His son is captured there. Hearing the mention of his son, Rockrak goes absolutely ballistic and smacks Owen across the face. He yells at this brain-dead fool for not telling him earlier. He's utterly disappointed that Owen never trusted him to begin with. If they had known from the start,